Imagine like a highly respected public figure,
Right.
an absolute moral paragon.
Oh, sure. Like someone known for really strict ethical boundaries.
Exactly. Now imagine that person getting caught hosting this lavish, intimate dinner party for known corrupt officials and just, society's absolute worst outlaws.
Wow. Yeah. The optics on that are just
A total disaster.
completely indefensible. Yeah. The media would just have an absolute field day with
The
it.
public would be so outraged. Well, today we are looking at how a 2,000-year-old public relations crisis, pretty much exactly like that one, actually birthed history's most famous stories.
It really did.
Welcome to the deep dive. I want to start off today by warmly welcoming you, our listener, and just offering a divine blessing for your day and for the entire week you have ahead of you.
Yes, absolutely.
May you find peace and clarity and joy in whatever you are facing right now.
That's a wonderful way to start.
Thank you. So we are unpacking an analysis today drawn from two incredibly rich resources. We've got the Holman Study Bible and the NAA Study Bible.
Two really excellent sources.
Yeah, and we're focusing on the 15th chapter of the Gospel of Luke. Our mission today is to uncover the shocking first-century cultural context hidden inside three of history's most famous parables.
The lost sheep, the lost coin, and of course, the prodigal son.
Right. We're going to explore how these stories completely upend, like, our standard ideas of justice and grace and what it actually means to be, quote-unquote, lost.
It's a really profound shift in perspective. I mean, when you read this text with an understanding of the historical and cultural realities of the ancient Middle East,
The whole thing changes.
it entirely transforms. You stop seeing a collection of, quaint Sunday school stories, and you start recognizing a series of highly calculated, culturally explosive arguments.
Yeah.
Jesus was basically stepping on landmines with every single word.
And what's wild is that the most scandalous part of these stories isn't the reckless behavior of a rebellious son.
Right, which is what we usually focus on.
Exactly. But the true scandal, like the thing that would have made the original audience actually gasp out loud, is the shocking, unprecedented behavior of a highly respectable father.
Oh, absolutely.
But, to understand how we get there, we can't just jump into the parables. We have to look at the room.
The context is everything.
Yeah, why are these specific stories being told to this specific crowd right now?
Well, the physical setting of this chapter really sets the stage. At the very beginning of Luke 15, we find Jesus actively receiving and eating with tax collectors and sinners.
And we need to clarify that because these are not just people who made a few minor mistakes.
No, not at all. These are the absolute outcasts of society. I mean, tax collectors were viewed as literal traitors.
Because they worked for Rome, right?
Exactly. They extorted their own people for the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And then sinners was just this blanket term for those whose lifestyles blatantly violated religious law.
Right. So they are the bottom of the barrel socially. And standing right there, just watching this whole dinner party unfold, are the Pharisees and the scribes.
The religious elite, the guardians of morality, basically.
And they are furious. Like they are murmuring and complaining, which to a modern mind, sharing a table or grabbing a coffee with someone.
It doesn't mean you endorse everything they do.
Right. But in a first-century Middle Eastern context, eating a meal with someone carries enormous weight, doesn't it?
Oh, it's massive. It implies deep, profound acceptance. Breaking bread together essentially means we are in fellowship. I accept you, and we are at peace.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The Pharisees operated on a really strict system of ritual purity.
Yeah, their entire worldview was based on separation. Separated the clean from the unclean, the righteous from the wicked.
So to them, associating with these outcasts didn't just look bad for your reputation.
No, it literally defiled you. So when Jesus sits down to eat with these people, he is actively dismantling their entire boundary system right in front of them.
Wow.
He is offering the intimacy of a shared table to people who, frankly, haven't earned it through the rigid meritocracy of the religious law.
So the religious leaders challenge him on this. They're complaining about his dinner guests. And Jesus doesn't launch into some dense theological lecture.
Right. He doesn't start quoting Levitical law back at them.
He responds with stories. He paints these vivid pictures of finding lost things. And it fundamentally contrasts the disgust of the religious leaders with, the overwhelming joy of heaven.
It's brilliant, really. He knows he can't just explain grace logically to men who are entirely obsessed with merit.
Yeah, they wouldn't hear it.
Exactly. So he targets their worldview by talking about economics, property, and lost valuables. things they understand.
So he starts with the parable of the lost sheep. A shepherd has 100 sheep, loses one in the wilderness, and leaves the 99 to go find it.
And the NAA study notes specify something really interesting here. When he finds it, he puts it on his shoulders, rejoicing.
Why the shoulder specifically?
Well, a lost sheep in that rugged terrain is going to be paralyzed by fear. It's weak. It literally cannot navigate its way back to the flock on its own.
So it's completely helpless.
Totally. The restoration of this sheep is completely dependent on the shepherd's strength. The animal contributes absolutely nothing to its own rescue other than simply being found.
Which sets up this powerful idea of a relentless searcher. But then, almost immediately, the narrative pivots to a second story, and the stakes actually start to shift.
Yes, the math changes.
Right. A woman loses 1 coin out of 10. And the Holman resources clarify that this isn't just like pocket change, it's a silver drachma.
Which was the equivalent of a full day's wage for an average agricultural worker.
Okay, losing a full day's wage today is definitely painful. But for a peasant woman in the ancient world...
Oh, it was catastrophic.
Well,
her margin for survival was razor thin.
And the physical reality of her search is grueling. I mean, peasant houses in that era were typically made of rough stone, right?
Yeah, and often with no windows at all to keep out the extreme heat.
So it would have been incredibly dark inside, even in the middle of the day.
Pitch black. And furthermore, the study notes point out the floors weren't paved. They were just packed dirt and dried reeds.
Sweeping a dirt floor is not like sweeping a nice hardwood floor.
Not at all.
You are churning up dust, you're sifting through soil and debris in near total darkness. So she has to light this valuable oil lamp and meticulously scour every single inch of that house.
The effort she is expending to recover this one single coin is just massive.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Tying back to what you said about the math, there is this mathematical escalation happening underneath the surface.
Exactly. We move from a 1 in 100 loss with the sheep.
So a 1% loss.
Right. To a 1 in 10 loss with the coin. A 10% loss.
The value of the lost item is increasing. The loss is becoming much more concentrated. And you can just feel the tension in the room building.
But the real kicker for the Pharisees listening to this is the aftermath of the search.
Oh, the parties.
Yes. When the sheep is found, the shepherd calls his friends and neighbors to celebrate. When the drachma is found, the woman calls her friends and neighbors. They throw this massive communal party.
And then Jesus looks right at the religious elite and explicitly links this earthly celebration to the joy of the angels of God over one single sinner who repents.
It is a devastating critique of the religious leaders' posture.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus is essentially telling them, heaven is throwing a massive festival for the very people you despise, and you are standing in the corner refusing to celebrate.
Wow.
Yeah. He exposes the fact that their hearts are completely out of sync with the heart of God. They feel disgust where heaven feels joy.
Wow. So with that tension just hanging heavily in the air, the escalation peaks. We go from a 10% loss
To a 50% loss.
Right. A man has 2 sons and one is lost. But unlike a sheep that just, wanders off out of stupidity.
Or a coin that's misplaced by accident.
Exactly. This son makes a deliberate, calculated choice to walk away.
The parable of the Prodigal Son. And the opening scene is an absolute cultural shockwave.
The younger son comes to his father and demands his share of the estate.
Right. Now, in a traditional patriarchal agrarian society, an inheritance is passed down when the father dies.
Because it's tied to the land, right?
Yes, the family land, the family name, and the family's basic survival.
So asking for the inheritance while the father is still perfectly healthy isn't just, financially irresponsible.
No, it is the ultimate verbal violence.
It's essentially saying, I wish you were dead.
Exactly. The only value you have to me is your wealth, and I'm tired of waiting for you to die to get it.
The level of disrespect is just staggering. And the study notes emphasize that the father would have had to liquidate a third of his hard-earned estate.
Selling off land, livestock, basically dividing his life's work.
Just to hand cold, hard cash over to a disrespectful teenager.
And in a culture so intensely driven by honor and shame, the father should have beaten him, or at the very least, driven him out of the house empty-handed.
Yeah, he doesn't.
No. He grants the request, he absorbs the public humiliation, and just lets the son walk away.
So the son takes the wealth, goes to a distant country, and completely blows it. He lives wildly, squandering everything on what the text calls dissolute living.
And then a severe famine hits.
He has no safety net, no family, no money. And he hits absolute rock bottom. He takes a job feeding pigs.
And to fully grasp the horror of this for the original Jewish audience, we have to reference the notes on Leviticus 11.
The unclean animal.
Exactly. Pigs were ritually unclean. A Jewish person wasn't even supposed to touch a dead pig, let alone raise them.
So for this young Jewish man to become a swineherd for a Gentile in a foreign land,
It meant he had abandoned his identity, his religion, and his community. He had reached the absolute lowest rung of human degradation.
he is literally starving. He's longing to eat the carrot pods that he's feeding to the pigs, and no one will give him anything. And it's in the mud of that pig pen that he finally decides to go home.
Yes.
But, reading the text, it's easy to wonder about his motivation here. Like, is he actually experiencing genuine moral remorse, or is his stomach just empty?
Is a very sure question.
Because he comes up with this highly rehearsed speech. Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. Treat me as one of your hired servants.
It sounds a bit calculated.
Right. It sounds like the perfect negotiation tactic for a guy who just wants 3 square meals a day.
Well, the authenticity of his return is a crucial point of analysis in the Holman notes. The text uses a specific Greek concept here for his repentance, metneo.
Wait, what does that mean exactly?
It's fascinating. This is not just a passing feeling of guilt or, the regret of getting caught. The prefix meta means a change or transition, and nous refers to the mind or the seat of moral reflection.
Okay, so a change of mind.
More than that, metheneo is a fundamental structural change of mind and direction. It's a total paradigm shift.
Ah, got it. So it's far deeper than just emotional remorse. Because, let's be honest, emotions fade the second you get a warm meal.
Exactly. A change of mind means his entire worldview has fractured and been rebuilt. He isn't just hungry, he is waking up to the emptiness of his rebellion.
He realizes he messed up big time.
He recognizes
So he sets off down the road, mentally practicing this hired worker speech. But the climax of this story
and the moment that would have absolutely stunned the Pharisees listening
is the father's reaction. The text says that while the son was still a long way off, the father saw him.
which implies the father was watching the horizon. He was waiting.
He sees him, he is filled with compassion, and then the father does the unthinkable. He runs.
Right. And in the first century Middle East, an elder, a patriarch, a wealthy landowner did not run.
It was considered highly undignified, right?
Socially shameful. To run, a man in traditional robes would have to pull up his tunic, exposing his bare legs, and sprint in a way that abandoned all decorum and honor. It was humiliating.
So why do it? Why throw away your dignity for the kid who basically told you to drop dead?
The cultural context suggests he's running to intercept the son before the rest of the village can get to him.
Because the community would have rightfully shunned this boy.
Exactly. The father absorbs the shame of the sprint. To shield his son from the wrath of the town, he takes the hit.
Wow. It is a stunning display of grace, just completely overriding protocol.
It really is.
He reaches the son, embraces him, and kisses him. And the son tries to get through his rehearsed speech. I've sinned against heaven, I'm no longer worthy. But the father interrupts him.
He doesn't even acknowledge the request to become a hired servant. Instead, he starts shouting orders to his servants, calling for 3 very specific items.
And these aren't just like practical gifts, they are massive symbols of restoration. First, the best robe, which would have been the father's own robe.
Immediately restoring the boy's honor in front of the watching village.
Then a ring. And this isn't just decorative jewelry. The historical context in the notes shows this would be a signet ring.
Which is huge. A signet ring was the equivalent of a modern power of attorney, or like a corporate credit card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was used to stamp wax seals on official documents. By putting that ring on his finger, the father is trusting him with the family's financial authority again.
That's an irrational level of trust for someone who just bankrupted half the estate.
Completely irrational by standard logic.
And finally, sandals for his feet. This detail is so telling because, in that culture, slaves went barefoot. Only free men and family members wore shoes.
The father is shutting down the son's plan to be a servant before it even starts. He's saying, you do not have to work off your debt. You are my son.
The restoration is instantaneous. And to seal it, the father orders the slaughter of the fatted calf.
Now, meat was not a daily staple. It was a rarity.
So a specially fattened calf.
It was an enormous amount of food, reserved only for the grandest, most significant communal occasions, like a wedding feast.
The father is inviting the entire village, the very people who would have rejected the boy, to participate in the joy of his return.
Yes. And when you map this back onto the room where Jesus is speaking, the implications are staggering.
Jesus is painting a portrait of God here.
He is. He's saying that God's reaction to a broken, repentant person isn't cold, legalistic probation.
It is an undignified sprint, a suffocating hug, and a massive party.
It completely shatters the Pharisees' rigid, transactional view of how the universe works. They wanted punishment, and God wants restoration.
It's like the son came back begging for a job in the mailroom, and the father immediately tore up the employment contract and handed him the keys to the entire company.
That's a perfect analogy.
Mm.
But, the narrative doesn't end with the party.
Right. Jesus introduces a plot twist specifically aimed like a laser at the religious leaders.
He introduces the older brother.
The second lost son. So the older brother is out working in the field. He comes near the house, hears the music and the dancing, and asks a servant what's going on.
And when he finds out that his disastrous younger brother is home and receiving the VIP treatment, he is livid.
He refuses to go inside. He won't join the celebration.
And notice the father's response here.
Huh.
Just as he abandoned his dignity to run down the road for the younger son, he leaves the party and goes outside to entreat the older son.
The father constantly moves towards his alienated children, regardless of how they're acting.
Always. But the older brother unleashes all his resentment. He says, "Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command, yet you never gave me a young goat to celebrate with my friends."
Listening to his language, it strikes you that he sounds exactly like an employee, not a family member.
Precisely.
He views obedience as a currency he uses to buy his father's favor.
And that is the crux of his tragedy. The older brother operates purely on a system of merit. I perform the duties, therefore I deserve the reward.
And the study notes point out he is a direct stand-in for the Pharisees and the scribes.
Yes, he is morally upright, he stayed on the farm, he did the work.
But his heart is completely disconnected from the father's heart.
He views the relationship as an employment contract.
Wait, so is the older brother actually just as lost as the younger one? Like, he never physically left the farm, but his heart is miles away.
He's just as lost. He just found a more socially acceptable way to be lost. I mean, he even distances himself from his own sibling. He won't even call him his brother.
Right. He looks at the father and says, "But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him."
This son of yours. The distancing is profound. It perfectly mirrors how the Pharisees viewed the tax collectors and sinners at Jesus' table.
They didn't see fellow Israelites. They saw untouchables.
The older brother's self-righteousness makes him entirely incapable of experiencing grace. He is so obsessed with what he thinks is quote-unquote fair that he cannot stomach the radical nature of mercy.
Yet the father doesn't respond with anger. He absorbs the disrespect from the older son just as he absorbed it from the younger.
He speaks to him with such deep affection. He says, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad. For this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found."
The father is pleading with him to just drop the ledger, to stop keeping score and to enter into the joy of the family.
He validates the older son standing by, saying, "All that is mine is yours." But he absolutely refuses to apologize for his grace toward the younger son.
He invites the rule keeper to experience the exact same unmerited love that just saved the rule breaker.
It's beautiful.
We've covered a lot of ground today, pulling back the layers of these ancient texts. They reveal a God who searches meticulously in the dark dirt for what is lost.
A God who hikes up his robes and runs in an undignified sprint toward the broken.
Yeah. A God who extends radical boundary-breaking grace to both the rebellious rule-breaker in the pig pen and the resentful rule-keeper standing out in the field.
And that leads to the most provocative element of this entire chapter, really. It is the architectural brilliance of the story itself.
What do you mean?
The parable ends on a cliffhanger.
It really does. Jesus just stops talking.
He never tells us what the older brother did. He leaves the story entirely unresolved. We don't know if the older brother dropped his pride, let go of his resentment, and walked into that party.
Or if he stayed outside in the dark, clutching his perfect attendance record.
Exactly. Jesus left the choice hanging in the air for the Pharisees standing in that room. He was inviting them to put down their disgust and join the table.
And it's a choice left hanging in the air for you, the listener, today. When you look at your own life, which brother do you resonate with more?
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. Are you the one in the distant land carrying the weight of your mistakes, wondering if you could ever possibly go home? Or are you the older brother, standing outside the party, resentful that grace is being handed out to people you don't think deserve it?
The music is playing, and the Father is standing outside inviting you in.
Will you let go of the rigid lines of keeping score and step into the messy, beautiful, overwhelming reality of grace? We hope this deep dive has given you something profound to think about.
Thank you so much for exploring this with us.
God blesses all the listeners.